Transgender is an umbrella term that we use to describe people whose gender identity or gender expression, so how they feel inside or how they express their gender, is different from the gender that they, or the sex that they were assigned at birth. So for some people, it can mean that they identify as male, but they were born female. And for some people, that might mean that they identify as female, but were born male.
Mark is 22. He came to Ireland with his parents from Eastern Europe when he was 16 years old. Although Mark was born female, he has always been unhappy living in a girl's body.
Ever since I was really young, I knew that I was different, that I just did not feel comfortable in my body. I was too afraid to tell my mom how I felt about it. Once we moved to Ireland, I had more chance of finding out that actually there was such a thing as transgender, where to get information and all that. I'm really happy to be here because I sometimes think that had I stayed back home, I would have been on the street, completely unhappy. I do think that I've always behaved as a boy. There were a lot of people who just assumed I was a boy, which was very funny in a way because I heard what they said and it made me happy, and they did see me for who I really was. As much as I was trying to dress as a male, I still did not feel whole. I managed to get enough money to see a psychologist who diagnosed me with gender identity dysphoria.
Mark has been seeing clinical psychologist Dr. James Kelly, a specialist in gender identity, since he was 19.
The first time a patient comes to me, I try to assess what it is that they would like to see happen. And once we've kind of established that, that's usually in the first session, what the options are, and that kind of thing. Then we work towards what we call assessment and evaluation. So the assessment part has to do with whether they're meeting the diagnostic criteria for the condition. And we sort of evaluate what a transition might entail.
It's been really good, it's been fantastic.
Yeah, well, you seem very...
So transitioning is a term that people use when they're talking about moving from one gender to another gender.
They should be.
For a lot of people, the first step is just, talking through what they're feeling.
You're asking, am I doing the right thing?
And not everybody who comes in feeling like they have issues with their gender or issues with their body would necessarily be transgender. And so what we would do is we would try to support people to explore their own process and what makes most sense for them. And we would do that by referring people to counselors who are open and interested in talking people through that, and just not making an assumption that somebody is any one thing.
Mark is undergoing hormone replacement therapy to adjust his hormone levels to those of an average male. This treatment is taking place under the supervision of Dr. Donal O'Shea, a consultant endocrinologist at St. Columkille's Hospital in Loughlinstown.
The role of the endocrinologist is to make sure that the patient is safe to embark on the transition from male to female or female to male. So we have no role in the diagnosis, and we can't see a patient before the diagnosis has been made. So once the psychiatrist or psychologist have made the diagnosis, they're referred to us. How long are you on the testosterone treatment now?
I started in January last year, so that would be a year. Once you start taking hormones, your body changes incredibly. My voice started to break really quickly. I started to grow more body hair, and the bulk of my muscles would increase.
That is going...
It's still difficult for Mark. He is facing various obstacles, including changing his name and legal documents. But Mark remains positive about his future as a man.
One of the major issues that face trans young people is a sense of isolation. And if you're not able to express it and you don't feel safe or you don't feel like people will support you, you can feel very, very alone. So the first step for friends, other students, teachers, parents would be to offer their support, to really lend an ear, to listen very carefully to what people are saying, and not to try to put anything onto them, not to try to assume what they're saying. I think for a lot of people it can be a long process, and that what's really necessary is to have the options and have the space to explore that with support, to know that no matter what decisions that person makes, that they'll be supported, that they'll be respected, that they'll still be loved, that they'll be cared about, all of those things, that they won't lose friends, that they won't lose family. And once you have that space, that young person has the opportunity to really figure out what works best for them.